Going on, guys? All right, we are here tonight to talk quarterbacks, and we got a very special guest coming on, so stay tuned.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for two, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What's going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 158 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are here every Wednesday night on YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook Live. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, how you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. Got to watch some Hard Knocks, so got a little bit of football in me.
Nice.
So I started to get a little hope. It kind of got me feeling good about it, but still even more nervous because of the precautions. But I'm more excited than normal.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of surprised they did it this year because with the whole thing with not having people in the facilities, and so how do you have a whole camera crew following your team around, and how do you keep them in track there? I mean, I'm glad that they're still doing it.
The precautions are crazy.
Is it really? I honestly I have barely watched it. I don't have HBO. I don't get a lot of the episodes, but I've seen a couple here and there, and yeah, I saw it this year. They're doing two teams this year, right? LA Chargers and the LA Rams at the same time.
Yeah.
Nice.
So different between the teams with the coaches.
Really?
Yeah, McVay is just different.
Yeah, I think we all know that. All right, as I mentioned at the top, we got a special guest tonight, Mr. Consistency himself, Bob Lung, creator of the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. He's been nominated for FSWA's Best Fantasy Football Production over the last 3 years. Actually won it in 2018. Bob, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing great. Happy to be here from the Fantasy Football Consistency Lab, as you see behind me. Very nice. Thank you for helping me out with some back screens here. Thanks for letting me on. I love the intro. You hooked me up with that young man. I can't think of his name, but he did our Prop It Like It's Hot.
Yep, I remember that
intro for last year. So we're excited to get to that again. But yeah, love the intro. Love the guy who put that together. So thanks again for having me. Looking forward to talk about quarterbacks, man.
Definitely. So for those of you that out there that don't know Bob, Bob, just give us a quick rundown. How long you've been doing this, and just anything you wanted to mention with your guide and everything else.
Got it. So I've been playing fantasy football since 1985, and 2002 started writing some information, putting some stats together about how important consistency was in fantasy football, because my team didn't make the playoffs that year because the very inconsistent Sean Alexander's rushing touchdowns. And so I created this consistency concept, calculation, whatever you want to call it, and just kind of started writing, been writing for different number of sites for years, created my own site and my own stuff about 6 years ago, started the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide about 4 years ago. And like you said, I've been just honored to be even chosen to be one of the best magazines every year. And this year it's out again. You can get it on Amazon if you're a hard copy kind of guy. If you're not and you like the PDF version, you can come just to the website and get it there as well. So, everybody's kind of getting ramped up for fantasy football drafting, but it seems to be a little slow this year. I think people are still a little leery about what's going on, but we gotta have a positive attitude and just move forward as if everything's going to be just fine.
Definitely. And you didn't give us the website. Give them the website where they can find it at.
BigGuyFantasySports.com.
Yep, you can see right there on your shirt. Got the promotion right there. Good stuff. Yep. All right, we got a packed podcast tonight, so let's go ahead and just jump right into it.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, News and Notes is brought to you by BUSR Sportsbook. Bet on everything from MMA, NASCAR to horse racing. Of course, all your major sports, NBA, NFL. Join now by visiting busr.com/going42. That's the number 2. And receive a welcome bonus up to $500. All right, guys, we got a couple news and notes here tonight. The first one is probably one of the biggest ones right now, especially for those out there that love college football and those of us that play Dynasty. But there's been a couple conferences now that have sort of shut down or postponed their football season. Ryan, I'm gonna go to you first. What do you think this does, for dynasty owners as far as the draft and who's going to play and just overall, what do you think it does to fantasy football?
It's a mess. Like, I think it's going to have to be something where it's either going to be end up all being canceled or it's going to be a free for all and transfer to kind of destroy what we know as college football for a while. But from a fantasy perspective, I see this as an opportunity. Guys who are grinding, watching tape, who've been paying attention for a long time, you have the upper hand because everybody's going to be behind. You're going off those glimpses you saw before. And there's still tape out on a lot of these guys. And some of the guys who didn't play are going to end up coming back. And you're going to see people going even heavier on combine and small workouts where they see highlight clips than normal. And there's going to be hype on guys when there's talent out there that we all have known and seen. I think it's just extra time where you can find some advantages, but it's going to be an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Like, from a fantasy perspective, and I think it's going to take all consensuses kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, guys, if you watch Ryan's other show that he does with TDDR, those are the guys who are grinding. They're looking at guys for next year already, so I think that's a good spot that you want to start there and check those guys out. Bob, I'm curious to your opinion on this one, and how does this affect the draft? Let's say that they do postpone it and have spring football. Of course, the draft is in the spring. Does the NFL, you think, move the draft, or is it just that the guys that are, draft eligible just don't play in the spring?
Well, I'm taking it personally, and here's why. I live in Canton, Ohio, which means I'm very associated with the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
That was canceled this year, so we got that taken away from us. And guess where the draft's supposed to be held next year?
Oh,
Cleveland.
Yep.
Cleveland/Canton. So, I'm really starting to think the NFL just doesn't like us for some reason. I don't get, what the deal is here. But all kidding aside, it is messy. And it is, I don't know how they're going to do that, if these teams play in, the spring and, yeah, I guess they play for 2 months and then they get drafted at the end of April, just like they normally would.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I guess as long as everything's done in a couple months, I mean, I guess you could even play to the end of March. They don't draft to the end of April, and I guess as long as my concern be if I'm a star player, do I even want to risk it?
Yep.
I mean, if I don't know, it is a mess. I really wish the NCAA would have the balls to just say one way or the other. Either we're all in or we're all not.
Yep.
And you know what? If the individual conference wants to make that decision, that's fine. But I think the NCAA still is putting out a product, and that product is college.
I would say the one thing with
the kids, but I'm also concerned about the safety of adults. It's like if it's going to bother you, if it's going to be a problem, then don't do it. So it's got to be one way or the other. Yep. They have to make a decision, and it can't be whatever the conferences want to do because some want to play and some do not.
Yep.
And it can't be both. It just shouldn't be allowed to do that. They'd be no different if the Major League Baseball teams, the Indians, the Pirates, and the Reds all go, you know what, I don't want to play.
Yeah.
The Pirates did do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough I got two star Indians pitchers who can't even freaking stay home when they go to a game in Chicago and go visit their friends. It's like, come on, guys. So now that's that's not helping the situation.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my thought. Is just somebody has to make a stand. Everybody's too afraid. So if you're not going to make a stand, then cancel everything.
Yep.
Just do it.
Agreed.
You can't do it half-assed, and that's what they're doing.
I don't think the spring game thing's real. I think it's a ploy to keep players. I think it's to keep guys from transferring.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah, I was going to say because that's going to be so tough, and guys like you mentioned that are star players, are they going to want to play in the spring because they have the ability to opt out? Like a guy like Trevor Lawrence, his stock can't really get much higher than it is. So why would he bother even trying to play? Just go right into the draft and just go from there.
You missed the combine prep, all that.
Yep. All right, so we got two other notes here on a couple running backs. One of them's a little bit older news that we haven't talked about on the show yet, but Darius Geis got into some off the field issues. Redskins wasted no time whatsoever. They released him. We won't talk about Darius Geis too much because I don't want to get into that whole situation. Let's talk about the guys that are still with the team. And Ryan, I'll go to you first on here. Who, if you're buying one of these guys, of course you got Gibson there, you got Love. You got McKissick, a bunch of different running backs there. Who are you trying to get right now?
I'm not trying to get any of them, but I think it's Adrian Peterson still the guy to own there. He was a horse last year for them. They gave him a ton of carries. He's going to get it again this year. I love Antonio Gibson, but he's not an every down kind of runner. He's more of a gadget type guy. And he was one of my favorite guys coming out, but I like him for his use. Peterson is still the man there. I could see him with 230 to 250 carries of inefficient football where he just gives you nice RB3 production. I really don't want much of anything in that offense other than McLaurin, though.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I think, I was buying Bryce Love early in the season. I think me and you were in a draft, Ryan, the TDDR league that I got Bryce Love in pretty late, and I'm hoping that he pans out. He was given that clean bill of health, which definitely helps his situation. But I think it is going to be Adrian Peterson's job to start, and he's kind of a Superman. You know what I mean? Somehow he keeps him and Frank Gore for some reason. They just keep chucking along.
And if Peterson's not there, it could be Peyton Barber, and it's so boring.
Yeah,
but
yes.
I mean,
yep, exactly.
He's not going to fumble, and we'll let that defense do its thing.
Yep. Bob, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I look at the consistency guide that I have in front of me, and I look at this and I go, holy cow, Adrian Peterson went 6 for 9 in the last 9 games in clutch games, so 67% consistency in the second half of the season.
Wow.
So he got better as the year went along. My thought is probably because the quarterback situation improved a little bit, which gave him a little bit more. So, you look at that and you go, how do you not draft Adrian Peterson? And you're getting him in round 12, 13, 14. I haven't seen his. I'm doing some drafts that just started over the last couple of days, and Peterson's still there, and I'm in round 12.
Yeah.
So I'll probably draft him as my RB 4, 5.
Yep.
What do I got to lose?
Yep.
I mean, if he actually does play that consistent, then
it's great.
Now, yeah, there's some young kids there, and I like Bryce Love too, and I think he's certainly got potential. And now that he's healthy, Gibson I think is a little, going to be a little green and not going to have much of a preseason to work with. So I guess I'm all in on AP all day.
Yeah, I think I'm with y'all as well. I think it's AP, Bryce Love if you want the upside. Gibson, I talked about this in a couple of my group chats. He only had, I think it's 77 total touches in college, which is extremely low. I just don't think you can go from that, have no preseason, and jump into a pro game and just be a stud running back. I don't think it's going to happen. It's going to take a while for him to get kind of used to it. All right, the other one we got to the running back. He's been out there for a while on free agency. Patriots finally step up and sign Lamar Miller. I'm more worried about some of the guys that are already there, mainly Sony Michel. Rumors are having that he might go on the PUP list. What are your thoughts on this Lamar Miller thing, Bob?
Well, just 2 years ago in 2017, Lamar Miller was 16th in total points in fantasy, 63% consistency, which put him right up there in the top 15. It's almost, it's like if he can be healthy and obviously he's in a good situation there in New England. There isn't much ahead of him to have to beat out. Cam's there. That'll give him at least some stability at quarterback. They still have their weapons around them with Edelman and, Mohamed Sanu and that kind of stuff. To be honest with you, I've been in these 2 drafts I just started. I've went to ADP 999 and found Lamar Miller buried at the bottom, and I put him in my queue for like round 16 or 17.
Yep, exactly. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this, and how does it affect guys like Sony Michel and even Damian Harris for that matter?
I was sad about it for Damian Harris. I was really hoping he'd get the chance to see somebody I really like coming out. I mean, Lamar Miller signing with the Pats kind of makes the Pats feel like business as usual. Like another guy to fit that role. He was really good kind of grinding his last couple of years in Houston. He went from an explosive back to kind of grinder there. and which is kind of what Sonny Michel was, and he's going to be taking his place because he was hurt. James White's still going to get his. I think they're going to find ways to rotate Burkhead in and hopefully Damon Harris. But I think it's kind of business as usual and a little bit of a mess there. I'll take him at 15th, 16th round, absolutely. But it's nothing I'm going to be real excited about if I ever have to play him.
Yeah, I think I'm with y'all. I'm not really buying Lamar Miller too much. I still do like Damian Harris, and I do think that if Sonny Michel goes on the PUP to start the season, I do think Damian Harris gets at least a crack at it. Maybe not the first crack, but if Lamar Miller, he's 29 years old, he's coming up a major injury, who knows what he has left in the tank. I think Harris still gets his opportunities, but it's the Patriots, like you mentioned. This very situational. Could be a James White game one week, and the next week it's a Lamar Miller game, and then it's a Damian Harris game. You never know which one is which, and it's gonna be impossible to figure out. So avoid it if you can in your redraft leagues, especially if it's a dynasty league. I think I'm buying Harris everywhere I can get him right now. All right, so we're going to talk about our top 12 quarterbacks tonight. And Bob, before we get to that, you kind of talked about it a little bit with your consistency. Just give us a quick rundown on how your consistency rankings work and how you come up with your rankings.
So without getting all into math and algorithms and all kinds of crazy stuff, it's pretty simply just basically each week there's a certain number, and if you go to the website, you can actually see the consistency report tool. Put in your own scoring method. It calculates what's called a clutch factor. This is the number of points, fantasy points in that scoring method, and that number of teams in your league that player has to earn over to earn a clutch game. More clutch games, more consistent, the more valuable they are to your fantasy team. So, for example, last year, quarterbacks are about 19.5 points. Running backs were 10.8, wide receivers 10.2, and tight ends were 8.8. And that fluctuates. So there may be weeks that 13 tight ends earn over that. There may be weeks that only 8 of the tight ends earn over that. And it fluctuates and it recalculates every week throughout the season. And then by the end of the year, obviously, we have a pretty stable number. But that's kind of how the consistency rankings come about. Obviously, if you're 100% consistent, you're perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. So the higher number, the better. And so that's what it kind of all comes into play.
All right, good stuff. Let's go ahead and jump right into it here.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, so before the show, I had y'all both send me your top 12, and I got a couple questions based on comparison to two of y'all. So for the first one here, y'all each had 10 of the same QBs. You each had 2 different ones. And Bob, we'll go to you first on yours. The 2 different ones you had Jared Goff at number 12 and Tom Brady at number 9. If you can kind of talk with them a little bit and what their, as far as their consistency goes and what you saw, especially Jared Goff, because he's not in top 12s pretty much anywhere that I've seen him at least. He's the one that I'm really, really kind of interested to hear about.
Well, and I don't know why he's not in the top 12. Last year he was 12th in total points. That's top 12. And his consistency was 69%, which ranked him tied for 9th, which is also top 12. So he was top 12 in both total points and consistency, and yet nobody's given this guy any love at all.
Yep.
I mean, he was 11 out of 16 games. He almost had. He was higher than Russell Wilson. He was higher than Kyler Murray. He was higher than Aaron Rodgers by far. I'm not saying I'm jumping on top of him as my number one quarterback of most of my teams, but if you are one of those really deep down, gotta wait to the last minute, then wait on him.
Yep.
But what's great is because, like you said, he's not in the top 12. I'm getting him as my backup quarterback in almost every league I'm in.
Yep.
And that's fantastic. I've got a nice, consistent guy. If my quarterback gets hurt, if I draft an older guy like I seem to do, like Breeze or Ryan or Tom Brady, then I get Goff as my backup, and I feel like I'm in really good shape.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and I do like Goff. I've gotten him in a couple of my leagues too, really late, because you're right. I mean, he's just not getting the love. I don't know what it is, if it's just the bad media. They got their Super Bowl hangover season, which actually wasn't a very bad season. I mean, you figure they had a winning record. They were just in the best division in football and didn't make the playoffs. Everyone thinks that they had this terrible season, but they weren't really that awful.
And the other thing on top of that was they lost their star running back. So now they're going to need to throw the ball more because their running game isn't going to be as strong as it was when Gurley was there. So my thought is they have to throw more.
Yep.
So if he was that consistent last year with Gurley as the main back and doing a decent job, wasn't fantastic, but he was certainly very serviceable. I think Goff might have to throw more. So
yeah, good point. Good point. All right, Ryan, and the two guys you had different. It might be your dynasty mindsets just sort of sneaking in here, but you got two young guys, 2 second-year players. You got Drew Lock at 10 and Daniel Jones at number 11. Talk about your love about these two guys a little bit.
Drew Lock is the one I'm higher on of the two. The reason is I'm a firm believer when a team goes all in on a guy and they decide they get their franchise quarterback and decide to build around him, and they're doing that in Denver. They had something there. They had a Judy, Hamlin, they had Fats, they had good weapons there. They grabbed a Melvin Gordon for another running back. And last year, the team let him throw a lot. He had 499 pass attempts his rookie year and produced with his legs as well. So I think the combination of that gives him a nice floor with those weapons, because you're throwing to those guys who two really good separators in Judy and Hamler and a big body guy in Sutton. That helps out a quarterback a lot. Those are the kind of weapons the young quarterback should thrive to, as well as a good tight end and two backs who can catch. I just love what they build around them. And as for Daniel Jones, he just gets a bad rap because of his college tape. He had 459 attempts, 12 starts last year, so he's well on pace for a ton of volume. The defense is putrid there, so that's going to help with him passing. And last year, his receiving core was beaten up. He got 10 games out of Tate, 14 of Slayton, 10 out of Shepard, 8 out of Ingram, and 13 out of Barkley. You get all of those guys on the field, that's a nice little core. And he has the best dump-off you can ask for outside of Chris McCaffrey with Barkley. So if he's in trouble, he can throw it there, and he can make it happen. You also saw 5 300-yard games, 3 games with over 4 touchdowns, and he's almost on pace for 300 rushing yards. So that's also a nice little addition for him as a quarterback.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, I love Locke and Jones, especially in Dynasty. I've been trying to get them everywhere. I'm also drafting those two guys, pretty late in some of my redraft leagues as well, because I do think the upside is definitely there. All right, so you each had the same top 4 guys in a little bit different order, but it's the same top 4, of course: Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson. Ryan, you had Deshaun Watson at 5, and Bob, you had him all the way down at number 9. I'm curious, is it the D-Hop factor? Is the fact that he's not going to be there, is that why you got Deshaun Watson so low, or is it more based on consistency?
Well, it's both. His consistency was silo last year. I mean, it's hard to argue. He was 73%, which tied him for 5th place. He was 5th in total points. That was last year. Last year they also didn't have that strong of a running game with Carlos Hyde. This year they have DJ. They got David Johnson in there. And I just feel like they're going to focus more on getting DJ the ball more. And without Hopkins, how do you not see some kind of regression? And like I said, there's a lot of good players right there in the same realm total points wise. Guys like Wentz and Allen and Goff and these kind of guys. I mean, Breeze, if he plays all 16 games, certainly could be up there, and he missed 5 games last year. So I just feel like, Watson even drops, 20, 30 total points, which is only, 2-3 points a game. He could easily drop in, down to 9th. And so that's where, and consistency wise, if he drops a little bit there, he could easily drop in, closer to the 10 spot at 69%. That's only 2 games of him, missing clutch games. So I just feel like there's just has to be some regression, and I'm just not that high on Deshaun this year as I have been in the past.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on there, and you're right. I mean, the quarterback, this year they're so tight. I mean, it's so deep. It's deeper than I can ever remember it being. You can get guys super late, and because of that, that little bit of a split, that little splitting hairs is going to go from quarterback 5 to quarterback 9 very easily. So I do think that that's definitely something that you can look at. Deshaun Watson can have a little bit of regression, still be a good quarterback, but fall back all the way to 9. So that's a good point there. All right, so Brian, going to you this time. So Bob's got Drew Brees all the way up at number 7. You have him just barely in your top 12 as the number 12 quarterback. Why are you so low on Brees this year? Is it you think they're going to run the ball a lot more?
Yeah, I feel real blasphemous when you say, why do you have him all the way down there? But yeah, the defense is really good. The news came out that Kamara was playing from week 6 on with torn MCL last year, which explains a lot of why his volume and why he wasn't being used as much. Him and Latavius Murray are a nice combination there, especially if we see an uptick for Kamara. I know they've improved Breeze's weapons, but that team, he doesn't have to throw as much. And I just think they're going to play it safe to get in, and he's still getting up there in age. I mean, he's what, the second oldest quarterback in the league behind Brady
Behind
now?
Brady, yep.
And it's just father time's on the catch up, but I still think he's good. I haven't, like I said, he's still in top 12 quarterback and split hairs, but that's a run first offense with a good defense.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Brees is, again, one of those guys that could easily be, 7 or 8, based on how close everything is to those top 12. So, yeah, I think having Brees there, I think it's actually where I have him is right at the top 12 as well. All right, so one more thing I want to ask y'all as far as quarterbacks go, as far as, the top 12. Is there a quarterback that's outside your top 12 that you think has the chance to be the number 1 quarterback overall? So, we've had guys in the past like Patrick Mahomes kind of did it. Lamar Jackson kind of did it. Is there someone outside the top 12 you think, Bob, that can end up as the number 1 overall?
I do. I guess I never thought about it this way, but I looked at one player right away as soon as I saw that, because I missed that one when I was prepping. But I figured it out real quick. So let me throw these numbers at you. This guy last year averaged per game, if you annualized his year, but he got hurt and missed the second half of the season, so he only played 8 games.
I know where you're going with this one.
His average per game for those 8 games, if you annualized it, would put him at 399 fantasy points. The only person ahead of him would have been Lamar Jackson, and that is one Matthew Stafford, who I have ranked at 13th.
Yep, I love it. Yeah, I love it. I knew exactly who you were talking about because I love Matt Stafford. I've been getting him in late in some of my redraft leagues as well, best ball leagues especially because he puts up those huge monster games. So yeah, I love that call there. What about you, Ryan? Anybody outside the top 12 you think they can finish as a QB, the QB1, not just a QB1, but the QB1?
I have 2, but I'm only going to bring up one because we're talking about the other guy later on the show. And I guess it'd have to be Aaron Rodgers. I know the weapons aren't great, and I know they want to run first, but that offense is still efficient. He's going to get red zone attempts, and he's really good in the red zone. He has Devontae Adams, obviously. One of those receivers gets better. Allen Lazard steps up and gives him some production. He can be there. And I know the narrative about a pissed off Aaron Rodgers is super cliche and all that, but he's still a really talented quarterback, man. Like, I don't care what anyone says. He's still really good. It just has to have the team working with him.
Yep.
But he could easily be there.
Yeah, I like it. Because, he's been there before. I think 2016 he was the number 1 overall. It's not that long ago, so good call. The last thing I have here is just the 2 rookies. I want to know which one you prefer. Just think of this as a redraft league. If you're playing just for 1 year and you had to have one of these guys on your team, are you going with Tua or are you going with Burrow, Bob?
Oh, definitely Joe Burrow. He's definitely I think he's just an all-around better. He's smarter. He's more talented. He may not run as fast as Tua. It might be his only thing that he doesn't have over Tua. But, this guy was just such a machine at LSU. And the other thing, too, is he's walking into a better team overall. A.J. Green, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd. I mean, that team is just so much better than the Dolphins right now, talent-wise. So I'm definitely going with Burrow. I mean, I think Tua also is going to have a learning curve. And they have Fitzpatrick ahead of him. So I think they're not going to give him a lot of reps until maybe mid-season if they're really tanking. But Dolphins played decent down the stretch with Fitz, so we'll be see. I think Tua doesn't make the field if Fitzpatrick stays normal and healthy.
Good call. What about you, Ryan? 1 year.
I agree. They're really close. They're really close for me in my rankings coming out. I think it's splitting hairs to an extent. But that situation for Burrow is really good. They have good receivers there. The line's a little questionable, but it's gotten better. And he has a good running game, and he's not behind Fitzpatrick. He's healthy. I know they're saying Tua is fully healthy now, but I'll believe it when I see it. We don't have camp to prove anything. And like he said, he's behind the curve. If he starts by week 6, it'd be a miracle. So I'm definitely going Burrow because of opportunity and situation.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so that's it for our top 12 questions. Quick programming note here. So next week, I'm actually going to be on vacation. I'm going to the Outer Banks, North Carolina, and we're doing Ryan is doing a Ryan Takes Over the podcast show. He's got JD from the GOAT District coming on. He's got Matt Hicks coming on as well. It's going to be a great show. So definitely check that out. I'm going to try to tune in as well from the beach. And then the week after that, when I get back, we're going to do our annual redraft mock draft. We're going to have a couple of the newer members of the Going for Two team on, and we're going to do a live mock draft. So check that out as well. And let's get into some stash or trash.
Stash or trash.
All right, we don't do this segment quite as often as I would like to, but this basically is going to be from a Dynasty perspective. These are quarterbacks that are not that great. They're not loved by the fantasy community right now. And I want to know if you own him, right? If you own one of these guys right now, are you going to stash him, hoping he has a breakout eventually, or are they just basically trash and you can just drop him? And Bob, we'll go to you first here. And we got a guy in Chicago that's gotten a lot of bad rep here lately, Mr. Mitch Trubisky. Stash or trash on Mitch Trubisky?
I'm laughing because I wish there was an or putrid. I just think this guy is terrible. I literally cried a tear when the draft was going and Chicago traded up to take Trubisky because I was so worried the Browns are going to take him. And I couldn't have been happier. I literally teared up.
Nice.
I think this guy is a terrible quarterback. I can't believe he's still there in that team. But the fact that they were so bad off that they traded for Nick Foles to try to give him some competition, just that tells you enough.
Yep.
Nick Foles was a very solid backup, but I just don't get this guy, and he would be, first off, he wouldn't be on my team to even make the decision. So I'm going to say trash.
All right, good stuff. All right, Ryan, I'm going to give you one that early in the offseason was being drafted as a late-round quarterback, thinking he would be the starter. The Patriots go out and sign Cam Newton. Now he's pretty much guaranteed to be the backup. So stash or trash on Jarrett Stidham?
I have no problem stashing Stidham for another year or two, just because we've seen some injury concerns with Newton in the past, and the Patriots seem to like him at least enough to start him in a pinch. He could prove in those situations to be good in the future, but I'd give him a year on my bench to hang on to him,
all right,
especially in Superflex.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got some value there as well. I mean, Cam Newton hasn't been the healthiest person in the world, so maybe he still gets to start sometime in this season as well. All right, we go from the current Patriots quarterback to a former Patriots quarterback who was all the rage last year after Andrew Luck decided just to retire. Jacoby Brissett, Bob, stash or trash?
I printed this out. I missed these. I know. You know what? I think he's a stash just because of the fact that, while Phillip Rivers hasn't missed but one game, I think, in the last hundreds of years, he certainly is up in years. You never know when somebody like that is going to take a bad hit. So I definitely would stash him because he is a serviceable quarterback when he's out there. He's not great. I mean, he actually is probably better than Trubisky. So I would probably stash him.
Yeah, I think he's a good stash there too because you got Rivers there and he's been around forever. So who knows if he's going to stick around? Now they drafted a rookie there, but with no preseason, it's going to be tough for him to actually take over for Rivers at any point this season. So yeah, and Brissett might end up somewhere next year as a starter as well. So yeah, I think he's a stash as well. All right, Ryan, I got one for you. This guy lost his job last year to a guy that was signed. Now he's the one going to a new team, trying to be the one to take over. That's Marcus Mariota. Stash or trash?
He's trash for me. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback, and I think Carr is vastly underrated. He played really well last year. He was consistent. He completed 70% of his passes, thrown to just a who's who of chumps out there, Tyrell Williams and Darren Waller. They improved that offense. He has some weapons now. I don't see him giving up that job. Gruden's not going to pull a guy who's not making stupid mistakes. And Carr doesn't do that, so their future quarterback, if they have one's not on the roster right now, is definitely not Mariota.
Yeah, and this is kind of it's going to kind of bridge the gap to this next quarterback. Is Derek Carr, like you mentioned, wasn't as bad as everyone thinks he is because he was a good NFL quarterback. He wasn't a good fantasy quarterback, which is totally different, and sometimes we can't separate that. This next guy is basically the opposite of that. He was an amazing fantasy quarterback and a terrible NFL quarterback. Is now a backup. Bob, stash or trash Jameis Winston?
I would stash him just because I love Jameis Winston as a fantasy player. He helped me with a lot of teams last year. I was so excited every time he'd throw 2 pick-six in the first quarter because I knew that 3 touchdowns and 350 yards were coming just right behind that. Obviously I didn't have him in any, leagues that penalized interceptions greatly, but, these leagues where they're only -1 and you get, 4 or 6 for the touchdown, it worked out great. So, yeah, I'm going to stash him. Last year, fluke injury to Drew Brees, Bridgewater stepped in, did a nice job there. I think Winston could do the same thing. He's still going to make his mistakes. He's still going to have problems, but, at least he has enough talent to get fantasy points when he needs them, and get the yards and touchdown when he needs them. Just, likes to throw it to everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a sharing kind of guy.
Exactly.
He just loves to share the football with everyone.
Exactly. He's Oprah. You get a football, and you get a football, and you get a football, basically. I love it. All right, Ryan, we got one last one here, and this has been kind of the forgotten guy. We forgot this guy is, he was a first-round pick, and he was supposed to be the next big thing, and he has just been passed around to terrible team, and just got a bad rep. But stash or trash, Josh Rosen?
This one's painful. I love Josh Rosen when he came out, but
are you related to him?
Nah, but he's trash, man. I'm not holding on to a third-string quarterback who's behind Tua and Fitzpatrick. He just doesn't have it. I don't know if it's all his fault. I think he got the wrong deal in the NFL, but he's done.
Yeah, I think I'm with you as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that the Dolphins traded for him and then basically he's still not the starter. You know what I mean? Like the fact that they went out and they were getting rid of everybody. They're like, traded away Kenyon Drake, let's get more draft picks, but they actually traded for this kid and then still couldn't get him on the field. So I agree. I think
it was a contingency plan in case they didn't get to it. And the thing is, like, I just don't know where he'd have any opportunity in the league. Like a young quarterback, you're like, oh, maybe they could trade him, but there's not that many spots left in the NFL, and we have another good quarterback class presumably coming in.
Yep.
I just don't see where he fits in anywhere.
Agreed. All right, guys, quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll do some breakout or fake out and a little bit of buy or sell, so hold tight.
In the unpredictable world of fantasy sports, when all hope seems lost and chaos and confusion rule, one hero will rise. And change everything. Going for 2.com. Because no one remembers the extra point.
All right, welcome back. I'm here with Bob and Brian, and we are talking all quarterbacks tonight. Before we get to our next segment, I want to quickly plug the Grinders Championship once more. Here's the championship belt, guys. It's beautiful. GoFundMe page is there as well. I think we're up to $500 raised. I'm hoping to get it up over $800. We had $770 last year, so I want to beat last year's pace. So let's hope we can do that. And if you can just go to goingfor2.com/grinder. Like I said, all the links are there for you to sign up, guys, and it's a great belt to win. It looks amazing. We did a good job. We had Master June 77 actually came on, and he designed the belt for us, and it was awesome. So definitely go to the site there and sign up. All right, let's do
Jeff, it. I've done this for a lot of the sites. I certainly would be more than happy to do this for you for this contest. Hey, if you want to give away a free 2020 fantasy football consistency guide to everybody that donates a certain amount to the cause, I'd be more than happy to donate those, man.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I will talk to you after the podcast, and we can definitely set that up. That would be a good way to get everybody in there. Good stuff, man. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a little bit of breakout or fake out.
Breakout or fake out?
All right, we're going to stick to second and third year quarterbacks only for this breakout or fake out. There's a couple of guys here that, people either love them or hate them at this point. They're either going to break out this year or this is going to be, their coming out party or it's not. So, Bob, I'm going to go to you first. Mr. Sam Darnold, breakout or fake out?
You know who has a worse consistency rating than Mitch Trubisky?
Oh, no.
Sam Darnold. He's only 38%, and that's an improvement from 2018 when he was only 31%.
Ouch.
The sad part is I kind of like Sam. I don't like Mitch. I think he's kind of douchey looking. But
love it.
I just feel like Sam has the potential. The problem is that Sam has Adam Gase as his head coach. And we know what kind of disaster offenses that we've seen from that. I mean, Miami, all of a sudden, poof, Ryan Fitzpatrick can be a god there. It just seems like Adam Gase just destroys every fantasy players' dreams and, for their owners. And Sam Darnold just doesn't seem to be any different. I think Darnold is one of those that someday is going to break out when they get a real coach there that can help him. It's just not going to be this year as long as Adam Gase is around.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there. Because, you mean Devontae Parker finally had a breakout without Adam Gase. They
Devontae Parker, Kenyon Drake left. They became a god.
Exactly.
Lamar Miller was buried there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Gesicki was nowhere to be found for whatever he came in. All of a sudden, poof, he starts becoming a potential for a breakout for this year. It's just amazing how this guy continues to be a head coach. And Sam Darnold, I just think that he'll break out maybe 2022, 23, when they get some real coaches in there to help this kid so he doesn't see ghost. But for now, I'm sorry, he's a fake out.
Yeah, I wonder if Adam Gase signs over any of his checks over to Peyton Manning, because he's basically still living off of that year where Peyton Manning was running the offense. He just got the credit for it and is now had multiple coaching jobs because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Ryan, the next one I got for you, Mr. Baker Mayfield, breakout or fake out?
So when I said another quarterback I think could break out and get into that QB1 range, it's Baker. And as a Ravens fan, it pains me to say it, but
as a Browns fan, I hope you're right.
But Baker's rookie year, he was fantastic. In 3 less games, he only had 100 less yards than he did last year in 16 full games. Freddie Kitchens had that place just a dumpster fire. You can't deny the weapons he has. He has Odell, he has Landry, he has Hooper, he still has Njoku. He has those 2 running backs, man. The Lions improved presumably a little bit. It's a good team. Yeah, a lot. And some confidence with being protected and those weapons and having some time to adapt. It could work wonders for him. It wasn't long ago he was a Heisman winner, number 1 overall pick. He was that for a reason. Sophomore slumps happen.
Yep.
The fact we just sell him off right now is absurd because you got to have patience in fantasy football, especially with these young guys somehow, and especially when the team is building around them.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. I think the pressure just got to him. I think that rookie season when he came in, he was loose because there wasn't much to play for at that point. He was just sort of throw the ball over the field on this to make decisions. Whereas last year was they were labeled contenders last year for Super Bowl contenders because of all the moves they made, and he's doing 900 commercials, and I think the pressure just got to him.
Yeah,
he almost
it
was just too much for him. And I think now that the pressure is off a little bit, hopefully OBJ can stay healthy. They have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, everything is in place. I think that he can definitely be a breakout quarterback this year and be what we thought. I
told people that he was blinded by the hype train.
Yeah, exactly.
He just thought he was invincible. They got their asses handed to him in the first game by the Titans. Trust me, I was there. It was horrible. And then everybody kept thinking, okay, they'll turn it around. They'll turn around. Then they had the big game against Baltimore where they smacked their asses in Baltimore. And I thought, okay, here we go. Now we're at, and it didn't. That was it. That was their highlight of the year, and then they just kind of, rolled over and died, and there was infighting. It was just ugly.
It was definitely ugly.
I've heard Baker say a lot this year. That was last year. I'm focused. I'm not doing the commercials. I'm not going to be in the limelight. We're going to win, and I'm hoping he's right.
Yeah, there was a video. I don't know if it was on YouTube, if I saw it on TikTok or something, but it was Baker Mayfield and Freddie Kitchens. And Kitchens was doing something. He was talking to Mayfield about something, and as he walks away, Mayfield goes, "He's an idiot," and that just summed up their whole season right there. I just thought that's basically the Browns season last year. So yeah. All right, Bob, we're going to go to you for this next one. Breakout or fake out, Mr. Mustache Gardner Minshew?
I love Uncle Rico. He's my favorite guy. When he threw that steak, knocked Napoleon off the mic, was fantastic. I actually like Minshew. And Minshew put some decent games together. The thing was, he started off on fire. I mean, he went 7 out of 8 consistency-wise. I mean, this guy was literally one of the most consistent quarterbacks through week 8 in the whole NFL. I mean, he was like 88%.
Wow.
But then, things kind of got a little unraveled, and then he went 2 for 8. So, at the end of the year, decent season, but, it's just I don't know what a breakout is for him. I mean, he was 50% consistent. That's certainly not unreasonable. That ranked him 19th, 20th. Breakout, I don't know if, breakout to me would have to be top 12.
Yeah.
I don't think he's at breakout level. Could I see him being, 60% consistent, maybe top 15? Yeah, that's not that big of a stretch, but I just don't know. The team kind of seems to, they've talked about trading Fournette. It just doesn't seem to be a lot of. They almost look like they're starting to be the Browns of this year. There's a lot of animosity. And
yep.
Is Fournette going to get traded? What's he going to do? And he's going to be in his contract year. And it seems to be a lot of unsettledness there. So as much as I love Uncle Rico, I'm going to say fake out because I just don't think that he's going to take another level at this point yet.
Yeah. I think people are kind of buying into that, and he did. He had a lot of hype. Basically his persona was bigger than his actual game on the field, and I think that's still kind of carrying him a little bit. Where people are hyped up about him, they want him to be really good, but Jacksonville's just a mess right now. I mean, you're like you mentioned, Fournette's. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so he's definitely gone for next year. And
I love Fournette, though. I'm all in on Fournette.
Yeah, I am too. I think they're going to run.
That boy's playing for big money.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
I think he's going to just crush it this year.
Yep, agreed.
But yeah, the rest of the team around him, that's going to be tough.
Yep. All right, Ryan, last one. Breakout or fake out? Quarterback right here in D.C. where I live, Mr. Dwayne Haskins. I know you loved him as a rookie coming out. Are you still on board with him?
For this year, no. He's a fake out. That team has done nothing to help him. I mean, last year he had a pretty bad receiving core than McLaurin, and they kept the same receiving core minus Calvin Harmon because he got hurt, who was no one even notices their second leading receiver. Like, it's a bad team. They don't have tight ends. Steve Sims shouldn't be your wide receiver too. They now have all these old running backs who we were talking about. They're not going to want to throw the ball anyways because their defense is pretty good. So they're going to try to just grind out ugly wins from teams. I just see no upside this year, and they're just do nothing for that kid. They need a whole new regime to change everything up for him to succeed, and I don't know if they'll do that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like I said, I do live in D.C., and I hear a lot of it. And, of course, anytime you live in the town like Washington, they like to hype it up. They like to think they're better than they are. They're hyping up Steven Sims Jr. as being the next big thing, and they loved guys up until just recently, and they're now all on the Bryce Love train, and it's just they're almost like closed-minded in the sense that they think they're better than they are. I do think their team lacks a lot of talent, and Dwayne Haskins is going to suffer because of that. I just don't think that talent's going to be around him. They're going to want to run the ball, play good defense, and keep him from doing anything. So yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. It's a fake out. All right, that wraps up breakout or fake out. Let's do some buy sell.
What you gonna do? Buy or sell?
All right, Bob, we're going to go to you first on this one. So Aaron Rodgers last year was the QB 10 in most scoring formats. His lowest full season finish since he was the QB 1 way back in 2016. So buy or sell. This will be, last year was his last top 12 finish in his career.
You know who else had a lower consistency rating than Mitch Trubisky? Aaron Rodgers.
Nice. I love it.
38%, people. I get it. He's Aaron Rodgers. If anybody can get back in the top 12, it's Aaron Rodgers. But that team is not what it was 3 years ago when he was, right up there in total points and, number one and all that. The team is a run first. They have Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams. They got A.J. Dillon. They're going to throw the ball like crazy to Devontae Adams. I get that. But the rest of the wide receiver core is nothing. There's just I'm selling. I don't think he makes the top 12. He might in total points. I mean, that's what the ranking is. I mean, you're talking top 10. He was top 10 in total points. But 38% consistency?
Yeah,
do you really want that guy as your starting quarterback? I'm selling him. And if I could get anything other than a bag of rocks and maybe a couple Twizzlers, I'm in.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm selling him as well. My wife's a Packers fan, so I got to make sure to edit this part of the podcast out, or she might kill me.
Yeah.
Put some poison in my drink.
Yeah, send me something in the mail.
Yeah. All right, Ryan. I got Mr. Kirk Cousins last year. So he went from a career high 604 attempts in 2008 to a career low as a starter. 444 last year. So buy or sell 500 attempts. So kind of cutting that in half there. Buy or sell for that for Kirk Cousins in 2020.
I'm gonna sell. I had in my projections I'm at 475. So decently behind that. And that offense is not built for that. They lost Diggs. I love Justin Jefferson. He's one of my favorite receivers coming out this year. But him and Thielen aren't enough where I'm going to be throwing that a lot. Because I don't really trust Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph as is. And it's a Gary Kubiak offense where he loves running the ball. And he has two talented backs with Dalvin Cook, who's just electric and elite, and a really good backup in Alexander Madison, who the two of them could be produce top 5 in total attempts for a backfield in the league. And that's fine with their defense. So I have a really hard time seeing him getting that kind of volume again.
All right, good stuff. All right, Bob. So my guy, I'm a 49ers fan, so this is my guy here.
Oh boy,
Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo finished as the QB 14 last season overall. Buy or sell? QB 14 is as high as he will ever finish in his career.
You know who had a consistency rating lower than Mitch Trubisky and Aaron Rodgers? Jimmy Garoppolo at 31%. And that is in all 16 games that he played.
Yep.
So, yes, again, just like Aaron Rodgers, in total points, he was 14th. In consistency, he was 31st. He barely made it in the top 32 quarterbacks. So I am going to sell all day long on Jimmy Garoppolo, unless he gets points for, dashing good looks and that maybe move him up some. But beyond that, and he gets to hit on Susie Colbert or whatever it was.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, or whoever it was.
Who was behind him at 32?
At 32, hold on.
I'm sorry, put you on the spot.
No, go ahead, do yours. I'll tell you when we get back.
All right. So you hurt my heart there with Jimmy Garoppolo, but I agree. I think that it's I love that Mitch Trubisky is the Mendoza line, though. I love that anybody below Mitch Trubisky is just terrible quarterbacks. All right, Ryan. So I got your boy here. Mr. Lamar Jackson had 420 plus fantasy points last year, depending on your scoring format. Obviously, a historic year. Buy or sell? Last year is his best fantasy season of his career.
God, I hate you for this question. It could be his best I don't think it's gonna be his best real season of football, but it could be his best fantasy season. I don't know if he's ever gonna run that much again, where he's setting the NFL record, but his passing can go up, and that doesn't score as much fantasy points. The offense has improved, the team's improved a decent bit, but repeating that 420 points is absurd, and I think we made Bob disappear, so I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, he's back.
I was holding paper up. I forgot. I was like, oh, yeah, my bad.
But yeah, it's going to be hard, so I'm fortunate to sell, even though I still have him as my QB1 for the year.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think NFL-wise, his best career is not behind him. I do think that fantasy-wise, it's going to be hard to repeat that because his running ability just is what kind of brought him to that point. But obviously, he's still a great player. You still want him on your team. But yeah, I think this could be his best year ever. All right, Bob. So this next one's kind of not fantasy related, unless you can, obviously if this guy does this, then he is going to be fantasy relevant. But so Patrick Mahomes, his second year won NFL MVP. Last year, his second year, Lamar Jackson won NFL MVP. Buy or sell, Kyler Murray has a year 2 leap that at least puts him in the conversation for MVP.
Well, first off, my answer is Teddy Bridgewater was 32nd last year at 25% consistency. He was the only one below Garoppolo in the top 32. You're welcome. So back to this question. Kyler Murray. So here's the thing, and you're right. I'm going to approach this from a winning football games, putting up stats to win football games, which puts him in an MVP conversation. I'm going to buy that for Kyler Murray because he is exciting. He can make the difference. He can do the things that Mahomes and Jackson does. He's got a good arm. He's got the legs. So I think from that perspective, yes, he could, definitely be in the conversation for MVP. Because if he picks it up a notch and he gets to, say, top 5 in fantasy points and more consistency, but the key for an MVP season is also winning football games.
Yep.
So if he has a lot of fourth quarter comebacks and those kind of things that may not be fantasy relevant, yes, I believe I would buy that he could be in the MVP conversation. I'm not saying he's going to be up there fantasy points wise with those two guys, but I think he can certainly be in an NFL MVP conversation. I'm going to buy.
All right, good stuff. Last one, Ryan. Mr. Ryan Tannehill last year averaged a career high 19 fantasy points per game. Buy or sell, he improves on that number in 2020.
I'm going to sell because his efficiency just doesn't make sense. If you look at Player Profile, they have his true pass rating first in the league, completion percentage 6th, play action completion percentage 1st, red zone completion percentage 6th. He's not that kind of quarterback. We've seen enough years of him. I know Adam Gase just nerfs everybody and just ruins careers, but he doesn't ruin them enough where this dude is top 5 most efficient quarterback in the league. It was a blip. I think he could still be really good, but you have A.J. Brown, who is averaging 20 yards of reception, and so much of it was yards after catch. The the receivers aren't that great. I can't buy the repeat. I like him as a mid-tier guy, but he's not a special type quarterback for me.
All right, good stuff. All right, it's time for the favorite segment of the night, our final segment.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Bob, you got to come strong here. Mr. Consistency here. You got to give us a good one. Who do you got for your Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week?
So I'm going to go back to a time when some of the people listening may not have been born yet, and it's 1999. We're going back to when we were all singing the Prince song, and the man's name is Olandis Gary.
Nice.
He was drafted by the Denver Broncos in round 4 that year. Didn't even play until week 5 after injuries took out the guys ahead of him. And he, for just the last 12 games, put up almost 1,200 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns, 21 catches, 160 yards, and helped me win my fantasy football championship that year. And after that, he barely had 300 yards rushing in any season after that. Just never could get it going again, never pick it up, and got traded to the Lions and was never heard of again. So well forgotten almost the year after he was a stud.
Yeah, exactly. it's crazy because I pulled his stats up, and you mentioned his almost barely over 300 yards. His last season was his next highest season, and it's 384 yards compared to almost 1,200 the year 99. It's just insane how much he fell off, and he was definitely forgotten about. And Orlando Gary, I'm sure, like you said, he probably won a lot of people some championships that year because he came out of nowhere. If you got on the waiver wire, you were more than happy to have him on your team.
Yeah, think Doug Martin from a few years ago when he kind of came in and didn't know if you're going to really do much, and by week 3, he's waltzing people to your title championship wise.
Yep, exactly.
And then never heard from again.
Yep,
pretty much.
All right, guys, that wraps the show up. Let's go around the room really quick. Give us your Twitter handle. Plug anything you want to plug that you got coming up or that you're working on. Obviously, Bob, you can plug your guide one more time. Bob, I'll go to you first.
Thank you. Once again, guys, thanks for having me. Always a great show. Love doing this. But, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Bob_Lung. Big Guy Fantasy Sports is the website for all the consistency information that you need. And for those of you who are looking to add some consistency to your draft prep, make sure you go to Amazon to get the 2020 Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. Have it shipped to you. You can get it in 2 days if you have the Prime shipping, and get it ready for your draft this weekend. So make sure you go out and grab that. Thanks again for having me, guys.
Definitely. It's an awesome guide, guys. If you haven't checked it out, it's yeah. Like when I told my friends I was going to have you on the show tonight, they were all ready to tune in because they all bought their copy. They all love it. So yeah, it's awesome. Well,
I appreciate that, guys. Thank you. So, and don't forget, let's give out some free copies to all the guys that are going to do the grinders and raise some more money.
Definitely. All right, Ryan, what you got going on?
Find me on Twitter at Foss534. Find me here every Wednesday. We're going to be putting out some War Room episodes coming up where we're going to be doing sleepers and kind of just 5 to 10 minute breakdowns on different players. Find me over at Dynasty Draft Room where you've been doing team projections, like 4 episodes a week there. And I have an all rated team coming out this week. I just forgot to submit it for like the whole week because boom. And yeah, working on a bunch of cool stuff other than that. So
good stuff. All right. As usual, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. I will be going on vacation next week, so I will not be on the show, but Ryan is taking over the podcast next week, and he's going to have a great show. Y'all doing prop bets next week, right, Ryan? Is that what y'all going to be talking about?
Yeah, we're going to be doing some prop bets, going through some of the Vegas odds on spreads. Since me and Matt have done all the projections together, we thought it'd be a good place to kind of touch that, and then our boy JD over at GOAT District is a big prop bet guy, so we brought him on
for
that as well.
Good stuff. And that's going to be through our sponsor as well, busr.com. So make sure y'all visit busr.com/going-for-2 to sign up. For Ryan, for Bob, I'm Jeff. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Ryan will see you next week.